Hello, this is Mish, and welcome to another Strain review. So this one was for Season 3, Episode 7. The title was Collaborators. So before I get started, spoilers, so if you've not seen the episode, go and watch it, then come back and watch this review. As far as plot lines with this episode, it was fairly simplistic. So I'm going to break it down into three areas. So there's three main plot lines going on here. So we'll start with the simplest. So it was Dutch, Ephraim, and Quinlan. So Quinlan arrived at Dutch and Ephraim, where they've been working on taking apart the Strigoi and trying to figure out their communication system. Ephraim seemed really keen to tell Quinlan, and Quinlan seemed really unimpressed. But anyway, they decide we have a plan here. They're trying to trace the master's language and the master's call. So they're trying to think of another time that they would have recorded that. And they had the idea, what about the master's call on the plane that came across from overseas that landed at JFK Airport? So they think, okay, well, we'll head to JFK Airport and we will get the black box, and then they can, get the recordings from that, which should have the master's signal or the master's voice. So they embark on a journey across the city to go to the airport. They come across a few situations. They've got to go through a checkpoint. They help a family out, which is kind of random. Doesn't really get them anything. I guess it just hammers home the concept that the city is really broken, and even that they do a really good gesture there. They save. It seems to be a nice family, and the family just runs away because they're so scared of them as well. So just a reminder there of the dire situation that New York is in, and they are in as well. So they get to the airport. It seems to be fairly uninhabited by the Strigoi. So they get the black box. Then a few Strigoi come out. And that's really the end of it. There's a few bits here and there, but that was kind of the top and bottom of their story. So let's move on to the next main plot line here. So it was centric around Palmer. A little bit of Icors, but Icors seems to be dotted everywhere throughout this whole episode. So we see Palmer has a new head of security, so that is Mr. Duncan. I wonder how long he is going to last. Hopefully quite a while. Seems like quite a resourceful character. So the whole point around this was Palmer was trying to get access to that boat, the boat that has arrived from Egypt and is now docked. So they go to the boat. Palmer realizes that someone has forged his signature for the boat to enter the dock, and they go to the boat to say, okay, let's go on a boat and have a look. And the captain has refused everyone access, and the captain is now not there. So Palmer is not allowed on his own boat, which kind of makes sense because there are rules around boats and docking and stuff like that. So that's not, out of the ordinary that could happen. So they go back. Palmer goes back, and Icors obviously goes to the boat to do what they need to do, and he found out that Palmer was at the boat trying to get access. So he's not impressed. Goes to see Palmer and says, what's going on? I told you not to interfere with it. And there's a bit of a dialogue between those two, and it's the usual, kind of jabs at each other and jibes, trying to say, they don't like each other, obviously, and there's a real, feeding off each other's hatred and their favour with the master between them. So Palmer's saying, why hasn't the master killed me? He's still keeping me around because he needs me. And it was just an interesting conversation. Nothing really came out of it, apart from the fact that, we believe the master probably still has a purpose for Palmer, even though the boat is now delivered. So then after Icors goes, Palmer sees that Icors is also injured. He's, lost his arm. That was the starting sequence as well, that Icors' arm, his hand is gone. So initially I thought that they might be able to put another hand on there. Maybe that'll come in the future. Maybe there's something to do with the white that it can fix, limbs being removed, but maybe not. So Palmer sees that. So he can see that Icors is a little bit weak as well. So he takes that opportunity, I think, to really get the knife and stab it in his back a bit on his way out. So Palmer makes his way down with Mr. Duncan to the boat again. But this time Mr. Duncan has brought a lot of security forces with him. So they're going to take the boat by force. But when they get to the boat, they realize it's already been taken over. So the boat's already, all the occupants on it are dead, and the cargo is gone. So whatever is on there has been removed. Either it's come from inside and fought its way out, or someone has gone on there and taken it. It's probably Icors, would be my guess. Then we see, towards the end of the episode, that Palmer and Strachian have a meeting, and this throughout this whole thing, we see Palmer is on death's door. He really is struggling, coughing up blood. He can barely stand. He's struggling to breathe. So we see that he makes a deal with Strakian, saying, and he needs the white to keep him going. He's doing the fight for, I guess, the good side at the moment, even though he kind of jumps between the good and the bad. You never know where Palmer's going to go. But yeah, so Satrakian gives him the white for a bit of information around the boat. And Satrakian's immediate assumption is that Ikorst and the Master have brought across some of the ancients from the other lands. So it's interesting to see that he immediately jumped to that assumption. And I think he's probably right. That's probably what the situation is. But we don't know anymore. There's not many hints around that situation. So for me, I'm assuming it probably is something to do with the ancient ones. But anyway, let's move on to the final plot story that we have. So we have Satrakian and Fet. Now, they don't really do a lot. So what they're doing is they're going on, their own little quest across the city to go to an old, colleague of Satrakian's who was a pawnbroker as well. And he believes he has a whole lot of silver. And he's correct. So they go into his shop, they blow open the safe, and there's a whole bunch of silver there. So they start melting it down. And it's for the Master's, sarcophagus or tomb or box, whatever you want to call it. So remember, they have to line it with silver and lead. So silver's to keep the Master inside the box physically, and lead is to keep, his communications, break his communications with everybody else. Whilst I say that was a simple, as in plot lines for these characters, it was very, heavy and dark because of the situation around Fet. So we learnt a lot about Fet this episode. So we learnt, that his parents are dead. And so it's a devastating loss for him, obviously. So if you remember, in the first few episodes, Fet went round to see his father to warn him to get out of the city. And we obviously sensed the hostility between them, something that happened, some reason that, that they're not communicating. And we learnt this as time went on with this episode. So we're kind of doing flashbacks to World War II on the Russian front, and we have two soldiers who we eventually learn one of them was Fet's grandfather. So he gets caught by the Germans and put in a concentration camp, and some hideous things happen to him. And time goes on, and the war finishes, and I believe his grandfather actually kills himself. But his son, so that's Fet's father, probably never knew the full story around what happened. So I think he assumes that it's a negative situation, and it was a negative situation, but that whole concentration camp situation is crazy in itself. But, that's another topic, right? But yeah, because the concept here is Fet's father was, he turned to academia and around science and knowledge to never let that happen again, and he changed the family's name to distance himself from the grandfather. So if they knew the real story, maybe he wouldn't have done that. So that was what the story is around Fet's father. And the reason why Fet and his father don't get on is because they're both probably very stubborn, and Fet's father never liked the career that Fet has chosen. So he's gone in as an exterminator, obviously. So that's killing animals, killing creatures. And I guess Fet's father probably associates that with, the whole concentration camp of extermination and stuff like that. So I guess that's probably where it's come from. And Fet's father seems to be very disappointed in that decision. So that was where we found the hostility, and that was the whole story behind it. And it was just really good to see those characters, Fet playing a different role. Instead of playing the macho, soldier, he was playing a emotionally vulnerable character, which is definitely something we've not seen from him. So on top of that, he had the whole situation with Central Park. That's how I think it all spiraled out of control. So he's got that. Then he's found out his parents have died, and then obviously the guilt around that whole situation. So yeah, it was a pretty emotional episode for that character, and it was good to see the Satrakian and Fet, coming together, because he struggled to tell Satrakian because he knows that Satrakian was involved with the concentration camps as well, but on the other side of that. So yeah, it was definitely good character development, very interesting, very well acted. I thought they both did a really good job with that, and yeah, it was sad but also heartwarming at the same time. So that was really, in a nutshell, everything that's really happened here. Not a lot of plot movement, but definitely some intriguing components here around the boat, around maybe, I guess even with the whole history of Fett, we see Icorst was at the concentration camp with his grandfather. So maybe that's going to tie in the future. Maybe Icorst will find out and use that against Fett somehow. Will be intriguing to see where that goes. But anyway, I'll leave this video here. So it was a nice short one because, as I said, it wasn't a lot with this episode. I liked the episode. It wasn't action heavy, but it was good to get that story. I did like the episode. I think it was just a slow-paced one. So if you're into the action ones, you might be a bit disappointed with this one. But for me, I did enjoy it. Sometimes a change of pace is nice with these episodes. So if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you didn't, obviously thumbs down. Please leave me some feedback below. Did you like the episode? How are you finding the season so far? And subscribe for future content from myself. I shall continue to cover the Strain episodes as the season progresses. And also, if you've not noticed, I've been doing some Westworld videos as well. So if you've not checked out that new series, check it out because it's pretty good. So once again, I'll leave this video here. So I hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, this is Mish, signing off. Cheerio.